Welcome to the Nonprofit Founders Club, where founders who have said, I have my 501c3, now what? Begins building the nonprofit they envisioned and helping the people they are called to serve, all without being the sole funder. I've spent over a decade in nonprofits and fundraising. There never seemed to be a rhyme or reason to fundraising. When do you do one strategy over another? Why do some organizations seem to execute some strategies with ease and some struggle? It wasn't until I realized these two things. The industry has the wrong terminology. Everything is labeled a strategy, but Merriam-Webster dictionary defines strategy as a careful plan or method for achieving a particular goal, usually over a long period of time. It's a high-level plan or method. An activity is work that is done for a particular purpose. Individual fundraising activities are the work that is done for the purpose of raising money for a larger purpose of raising the money as part of a larger plan. The industry calls each individual fundraiser a strategy, and that just isn't true. The next thing I realized is that there is a structure to fundraising. When you build your fundraising in a sustainable way, you build it in a particular way. It was at this point that the hierarchy began to take shape. So what is the fundraising strategy hierarchy? This framework helps you visualize the levels of fundraising. Fundraising builds on itself, and mastery at each level provides skills and resources for the next level. The fundraising hierarchy looks like this, and in the show notes, you will see the graphic. Each step can be broken down into levels, with each level needing a higher degree of skill and resources. So, why do we need to follow a fundraising strategy hierarchy? I found over the years that what people call strategy is really an activity. So, strategies are higher level and encompass many different activities. Activities are things like events, appeal letters, and sponsorships. Strategies are the different ways to get revenue into your nonprofit. They are things like individual donors, companies, and grants. I've also noticed that higher fundraising strategies and activities build on lower strategies and activities. Each step or strategy in the hierarchy requires more skills, more resources, and more infrastructure. Skipping straight to higher strategies makes fundraising more difficult than it has to be and goes against our sustainable fundraising principle of demonstrating rational growth. Taking each step in order helps you build your skills, resources, and infrastructure to handle each new level. This means you can meet the needs of the organization and build your infrastructure in a way that is maintainable. So let's take a look at the strategy. Let's take a look at the hierarchy in more detail. So step one, the very base of the pyramid, is individual donors, or if you're a membership nonprofit, your memberships. This step will constitute 3/4 of all contributions to your organization. It's the very foundation of donations. I have 3 levels in this step. So level 1 are beginner activities. They are online gifts, direct mail, email, in-kind from individuals, and peer-to-peer fundraisers. These activities take little resources and infrastructure to complete. They also help you learn fundamental fundraising skills. They can be successful with a minimal number of donors, approximately 10 to 600. Once you reach the 600 donor mark, you can more easily move to level 2. Now, keep in mind that this is the foundational level, so you will always come back to this level and continue activities from this level. Now, the skills needed at this level, examples include identifying your ideal donor, crafting messages that attracts your ideal donor, crafting an ask, email marketing, and appeal letter writing. The infrastructure examples that you will need: websites, social media, email service provider, payment processor, fundraising policies and procedures, in-kind receipt, and a thank you letter. The human resources you need. Some examples is at least a fundraising committee or someone responsible for these activities. Now we move to level 2. These activities include text to give, events, both ones that you organize and ones organized by others. Crowdfunding, which can be GoFundMe charity or Facebook fundraisers. These strategies tend to be more effective when you have a donor base of at least 600. At 1,500 active donors on your donor list, you will find it easier to move to level 3. Now, a side note, events are a gateway to step 2, so mastering them will help you more effectively move deeper into step 2 when you are ready. All right, the skills that you need at this level. They're going to include all of the skills from level 1, plus some organization skills, some PR and marketing skills, and advertising skills and experience. The infrastructure that you're going to need some text-to-give technology, some donate button on website technology, registration abilities, invoicing capabilities. And what resources are you going to need? You'll need an event committee or manpower volunteers, and you're going to need some money to spend on fundraising. And of course, you'll need donors. Now, in this step, we move to level 3, and those activities include pledge fundraising, monthly donations, annual campaigns, planned gifts, major gifts, and capital campaigns. These activities tend to be more effective with 1,500 donors or more. However, I am told planned gifts and major gifts can be successfully started on a very small scale at 600 donors. And capital campaigns can lead to grants. So, the skills that you need at this level. So, examples are case statement creation, ability to create marketing materials, and writing skills. The infrastructure needed. You need a donor base over 1,000 donors, technology to automate your regular giving. And then the resources, you're going to need multiple people dedicated to fundraising activities consistently. And you're going to need a fundraising expense money budgeted. All right, now we're moving to step 2, which are companies, churches, and denominations. So at level 1, we include corporation in-kind donations, checkout campaigns. Those are the ones that at the register, the organization gets a percentage of sales. Sponsorships, which will connect to events. And these activities can be most effective with as few as 600 donors. And so this is going to need more skill, infrastructure, and resources from the first step. All right, level 2 activities. Those are going to include your corporate donations and cause marketing, aka also known as collaboration. These activities are most effective with roughly 850 donors or more. All right, then we move to level 3. Those activities include matching gifts, volunteer grants, and corporate grants. These activities work best with 1,000 donors or more and connect to individual donors. All right, now let's move to step 3, the grants and federated funds. So in level 1, those activities include applying to community foundations, private foundations, and public foundations. Okay, probably saw a pattern there. Level 1 is foundations. These activities will need connections. And so 1,500 donors or more would be ideal to start this level. All right. Obviously, you're going to need some grant training at this level. That'll be the skill set you need. Infrastructure. You're going to need grant management software, a grant calendar, a program with measurable outcomes from at least 3 years. You're going to need an operational budget, tax filings for 3 years. You basically need to know that your organization is grant ready. That's how you are successful at grants. And so your resources that you're going to need is you're going to need manpower dedicated to the grant process. So this is time and manpower dedicated to the grant process. All right, level 2, we move up, and these activities include applying to federated funds such as the United Way and Combined Federal Campaign. These activities are most successful at 2,000 donors or more. All right, so the skills that you need are going to be writing and communicating skills, grant writing training, and then the infrastructure. You're going to need a grant process already in place. You're going to need a grant calendar and a grant database. Resources is manpower and time to manage the grant process. And when I say grant process, that is from finding the grant to reporting back to a funder. In this step, we are moving up a level to level 3, and those activities are going to be applying for government grants. And government grants are city, state, and federal grants that you can apply for. You will need connections for these grants, so it is recommended that an organization has about 3,000 donors or more as a pool to help with these grants. Skills needed at this level, you're going to need writing and communication skills, grant writing training, and you're going to need some connection skills, some relationship skills for people. Next, the infrastructure that you need. You've got the grant process, your grant calendar, and your grant database. And then the resources. You, at this point, will need a full-time grant writer on staff. These grants can take up to 50 hours per grant to complete. This is a huge undertaking, so you need someone dedicated to the process of this grant. Government grants are the very top of grant world, is what I call it. So make sure you are prepared. All right, step 4 now on the pyramid is earned income. This step will become half of all revenue when you get to that point. There are no levels for this step because they all require about the same amount of skill, infrastructure, and resources. And please consult a tax professional before getting into this step. Some of the examples for this step are fees for services. These can be charged for services that are within your mission without getting in trouble with the IRS. Most nonprofits will implement a sliding fee structure. This structure is typically dependent on income. Next, you have sale of products. Nonprofits are allowed to sell items or products. If these items aren't directly related to your mission, then you can get in trouble with the IRS if your income goes beyond a certain point. Again, consult a tax professional before starting this kind of endeavor. All right, the last step is supporting organizations. Supporting organizations are ones that are nonprofits in their own right, but whose revenue goes back to your organization. An example of this is Friends of the Library organization. It can also be an independent advisory board as a fundraising arm. I actually worked for a nonprofit where they had this. And It was their own foundation. All of the money that came from that foundation went back into the nonprofit, and they set it up so wonderfully because the foundation actually, one of the funds that they had raised money for salaries. So the nonprofit didn't have to worry about salaries. Every year, the foundation just gave money for salaries. So that was awesome. Okay, where would a new nonprofit typically fall? Since that's where we are, right? Well, new nonprofits fall in the first step and the first level. You work up from there. So start with your individual donors. All right, that's all for this week. I'll see you again later. Bye. That's it for the Nonprofit Founders Club podcast. Hit subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. In the meantime, keep building your nonprofit so you can help those you are called to serve.